follows FBI trainee Clarice Starling, played by a 27-year-old Jodie Foster. Starling is a gifted student who's pulled into the hunt for Buffalo Bill, a serial killer with a penchant for skinning his victims. Unlike Manhunter's Will Graham, Clarice has no real authority, and is constantly framed in claustrophobic Dr. Hannibal Lecter, a brilliant psychiatrist and chronic people eater. Here, Lecter is played by Anthony Hopkins, who nabbed a Best Leading Actor Oscar for the role, despite only 24 minutes of screen time. In fact, Silence of the Lambs cleaned up at the Academy Awards. It's the third of only 3 movies to win the so-called Big Five, taking home Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress, Best Actor, and a writing win for Best Adapted Screenplay. Silence of the Lambs is awesome. There's a reason that every other scene in this thing has been parodied and referenced to high hell. Hopkins' Hannibal is an icon of horror villains, and Clarice Starling is one of my favorite film protagonists ever. It's not only considered one of the greatest horror movies of all time, but one of the greatest movies, period.
Welcome back, my dear followers! Or welcome if it's the first time that you are watching my YouTube channel, My Paranormal and Mystery TV. Today the introduction will be brief because I'm going to make you watch horrific, terrifying, disturbing videos that speak for themselves. Let me tell you that the Silence of the Lambs, released in 1991, is not only a cult movie, a masterpiece movie, but it's considered one of the best movies in the history of cinema. In fact, it won 5 Oscars. And I warn you since now, because I'm going to make you watch not only the so many deleted scenes from the Silence of the Lambs, and so you will realize that Anthony Hopkins played more than the famous about 24 minutes, and he won the Oscar as Best Leading Actor. But I'm going to make you show really horrific, disturbing, real secrets and videos behind the film. So I warn you since now, they are really disturbing. The Silence of the Lambs, released in 1991, the director Jonathan Demme, the screenwriter Ted Tully, starring Jodie Foster, who plays the role of Clarice Starling. And think about that, in this film she won the Oscar as Best Leading Actress, but she had already won another deserved Oscar in 1989 with the movie The Accused. Jodie Foster is one of my favorite actresses ever, really. Then we have a myth, a secret master of cinema, Anthony Hopkins, who plays the role of Hannibal Lecter. And think about that, also Anthony Hopkins won 2 Oscars as Jodie Foster, but with a difference. His first Oscar was just in The Silence of the Lambs as Best Leading Actor. Then he won the second Oscar in 2021 as always as Best Leading Actor in the movie The Father. Then we have Ted Levine that many people don't know that iconic disquieting dance that now it's one of the most dances in the history of cinema was improvised by Ted Levine himself. Then after the movie, this actor suffered from a trauma from this movie. As the actress Brooke Smith, who played the role of Catherine Martin, both these two actress and actor had a shock after shooting The Silence of the Lambs. Then we have Scott Glenn, who plays the role of Jack Crawford, and many others. Curiosities. Think about there are famous cameos in this movie, like Chris Isaac, who plays the role of the commander of the SWAT and one of the fathers of horror movies. I'm talking about George A. Romero, who plays the role of a police agent. And this movie in 2011 has been chosen for preservation in the National Film Registry of the Library of the Congress of the United States. And now I warn you, really horrific, terrifying, disturbing videos. And I also must tell you, spoiler alert, because during this documentary I will reveal you the main twists of the movie. So if you haven't still watched The Silence of the Lamb, I suggest you to watch this masterpiece movie that is also considered one of the best movies in the cinema. And then, if you want, watching my documentary. Let's watch these horrific videos. Warning! Some images could disturb the sensitivity of the viewers. I start with the many deleted scenes from The Silence of the Lambs.
We have a hard problem in psychological profiling, and I would like to ask for your help with the questionnaire, sir.
We, being the Behavioral Science Unit at Quantico. Did Jack Crawford send you to plead for my advice on him? On Buffalo Bill, I mean?
No, I came because we need
How many women has he used, our little Billy?
5 so far.
All flayed?
Partially, yes. But that is an active case, and I'm not involved.
You brought your best bag, though, haven't you?
Yes,
It is much better than your shoes.
maybe they'll catch up.
Yeah, I have no doubt of it. And how you'd hate to think you were common, oh my. Wouldn't that sting now? Well, you're far from common. All you have is the fear of it. Now, please, excuse me. Good day.
The questionnaire, sir.
Okay, shooters, on the 7-yard line. This stage of the double action course, when the target faces you, you'll have 3 seconds to draw your weapon, fire 2 shots, and return the weapon to the holster. On the fine line. Ready? The line is ready. Holster your weapon, make sure it's snapped in. At the 15-yard line, shooters, once again, when the target faces you, each time the target faces you, draw your weapon and fire 2 shots. On the line, is the line ready? The line is ready.
Wish I had time for a social life.
Unit 31 was leased for 10 years, prepaid in full. The contract is in the name of a Miss Hester Moffat.
You hold this, please?
Yeah. It smells like mice or rats.
Stuck. Hand me that.
You're going in there?
Yes? Oh. If this door should fall down or anything else, this is the number for our Baltimore field office. Now, they know that you're with me. You call them if anything should happen.
Might I suggest packing your pants into your socks to prevent rodent intrusion?
Good idea.
Okay, Miss Starling?
I'm okay, Mr. Lang.
You're playing piano, Miss Starling?
That wasn't me. in about 2 seconds.
With Buffalo Bill, it's a little different. You'll find that he had a close relationship, or desired a close relationship, with his mother, but his mother rejected him. So in his fantasy, he's trying to recreate himself into something he is not.
Why?
A challenge?
Do you have something you use when you need to get up your courage? Memories, tableaus, scenes from early life?
I don't know. Next time I'll have to check.
Your first lie to me, Clarice. How sad. Surely the odd confluence of events has not escaped you, Clarice. Jack dangles you in front of me, and then I give you a little something for your resume. Do you think it is because I like to look at you and imagine how good you would taste?
I don't know, is it?
There is something Jack Crawford can give me, and I want to trade for it. But he hates me, so he won't deal directly. That is why you are here. Clarice, smile. We're going to be partners.
And who's gonna be there with you then? Who's gonna be there with your devil? It's gonna get you. And you're gonna be begging and pleading, no, let me have a last chance. You say, okay. He take you up to the gate. St. Peter looks around. Your name ain't on the book. Proud to be with you today. Good to see you today. To the sick, the shut in, that can't get around very good. The arthritis done got hold of you. I want to bring a little bit of the book into your living room today, and proud to see you. Jesus said that life is brief, death is sure, and that to every man someday he's going to have to walk down through the valley, the shadow, the death. And we've got to ask ourselves, before he walks, he's going to have to be right here on earth with the rest of us. And who's he going to serve during that time? What's he going to be doing before he walks in the shadow? You can't be a wrinkle in the sheets of Jesus. You can't be drinking from the devil's cup all the time. You're going to have to eat with Jesus to be well fed. And you can't be around criminalizing your children, beating up on your children, knocking your wife around. And you might ask yourself, what brought this up today? I'll tell you what brought it up. I read in the paper today, a man had been, oh yeah, it's hard on him. Sure, things are hard on the job. He's uptight, gets wrought up a little bit, can't sort things out. He comes home, the little boy runs up to him and says, Daddy, pal. Hits a little baby like that, knocks his wife around when the food ain't ready. And I'm tired of hearing about it. I think those of you out there, when we look around, we know what Jesus said, and we especially know what Jesus said about the little children, and he made it clear to us. The message is clear in this book, and this is the only book that you need. The message is clear, and the penalties are still. Jesus one time was giving an important talk. All of his talks were important. And all the adults, they gathered around like this. They got up close because they couldn't hear him, and so they got real close. There wasn't no microphones back then. There wasn't no way to get up and hear him, so they got close to him to hear every word he could say. And out in the crowd, there was a little boy, a little crippled boy. Had his sister with him, and he got to think, he said, well, I wonder, could I get up to see Jesus? Could I get up and talk to Jesus a little bit maybe? And he began to sneak his way up and began to edge up close a little like that. And he got up close and, one of the disciples saw him like that, and he reached out and kind of pushed him down like that. Right that second, Jesus looked around and said, hey, what you doing? Get that child up here right now, Jesus said, and he rebuked him right then. He took and he rebuked him immediately, and he said, don't corrupt a child. Don't be pushing a child around like this and de-innocentizing a child in any way. Don't tear down the love that I put in a child. And he rebuked him and he told him right then. He said it'd be better for you to tie a millstone around your neck and sink to the bottom of the sea rather than confront me after you corrupted a child. And Jesus got angry then. And for the children of you out there that are listening, I want you to know that Jesus got mad when someone began to corrupt you and criminalize you a little bit. And yeah, right here in the TV land, there's some of you out there right now that are listening. You know who I'm talking about. You know the ones I'm talking about out there. Abuse their child, evil eyes on their child, bad treat their child. Well, I want to tell you something. Your time will come. Life is brief. Death is sure. And you'll come and you'll be walking down through the valley of the shadow of the death someday. And crawlistic, creepy, snarl, and terroristic, bite, crushing, bone slicing-istic things going to grab up to you. And who's going to be there with you then? Who's going to be there with your devil? It's going to get you. And you're going to be begging and pleading, no, let me have a last chance. You say, okay. He take you up to the gate. St. Peter looks around. Your name ain't on the book. And you ask around, quick, can't somebody intervene? Please, won't Jesus intervene for me? Well, he could intervene for you. He could save you right then. But he's not going to save you. Because for the child abusers and the criminalizers and the hard spankers, he washes his hand of you. And he says, hey, devil. Yes, sir, Jesus. Take him on down there. I want him to go straight down into, that's right, you know where I'm talking about, don't you? That's right. The chitlin pit of hell. And that's what's going to happen to you. You think nobody's looking. But when you get up there, there's no plea bargaining. There's no technical acquittals when you get to St. Peter's Gate. Oh, down here, sure, down here where we are, yeah. Fancy lawyers driving Mercedes, drive the BMW up to the courthouse. Get you out, go in there, tell the judge some trick thing. Some little deal to pull you back out of the way. Well, when you get up there, if your name ain't on the book, you're not going through. And I'm tired of reading about it, and I'm tired of hearing about it. It's a blue-chip sin to take advantage of a child, to corrupt a child, to use a child to perverse advantages in any way, and Jesus had warned us. And for those of you out there, let it be a warning what he said. And start changing your ways, because you don't think that he sees what you're doing, but he does. Don't do it no more. Your time will come, and when you walk down through the valley of the shadow of the death, you want at least a little bit of Jesus with you. If it's not but that much of Jesus in your heart, you want a little bit of him in there with you. Because if you don't have none of him in your heart, there's no chance for you. So I want you to remember what...
Starling, you don't have to like me or the way I get results, but you do have to keep a cool head. Because from here on out, you'll know everything I do.
Sir.
make of these? Different configuration than the other victims. Get close-ups.
Still at exit wound level with the second or the third thoracic vertebrae. Approximately 6 inches from the right shoulder blade. Bony fragmentation at the right lateral scapula.
Sir, I wonder if that's the first time that he's done that. Placed a cocoon or an insect. It'd be very easy to miss in an autopsy. Do you think we can check back on that with the others?
Exhumation orders are tough to get. You need permission of the family.
Sir, have them check Rex Bale's head. Dr. Lecter's patient. Have them probe his soft palate tissue. They'll find another cocoon.
You seem pretty sure of that.
Rex Bale was killed by the same man who's killing these girls, and Lecter knew that. He knew him. Maybe he even treated him. Yeah, that's what he meant by fledgling killer. That's why he is so sure that he can help us. You think so too, don't you?
Before we caught him, Lecter had a big psychiatric practice in Baltimore. But he also traveled around the country, lecturing, consulting, Christ, even testifying in murder trials. Who knows how many psychopaths he turned loose just for the fun of it. Follow up on that bug when we get back. You're doing good, Starling.
Thank you very much, sir. It looks like a damn good deal, sir. You think he'll go for it?
Man, it's a raving maniac. Who knows what he'll do? You up to this?
Yes, sir, I'm up to it. Now, Lecter's offered us his help. Couldn't we just ask him for Bill's identity?
You told me you don't spook easily.
You call this easy, sir?
Wouldn't you say, Clarice, that for a United States Senator, you are a very odd choice to act as a messenger?
How was your choice, Dr. Lecter? You chose to speak with me. Would you prefer someone else? Or maybe you don't really know anything that can help us?
That is both impudent and untrue. Tell me, how did you feel when you viewed our little Billy's latest effort? Or should I say his next to latest?
By the book, he's a sadist, but that doesn't...
Life is too slippery for books, Clarice. Didn't you know that typhoid and swans came from the same god?
Tell me his name.
No names. No names. But I'm still waiting for your offer, Clarice. Please, enchant me. Walker. Happy hunting. And Clarice, next time you will tell me why you ran away, won't you? Now listen carefully, because I will not repeat this. You're trying to obtain a list of males rejected by all 3 gender centers. Check first the ones rejected for having lied about criminal records. Look for severe childhood disturbances associated with violence. Our Billy wasn't born a killer, Clarice. Oh no, he was made one through years of systematic abuse. Go to the personality tests. Study their drawings. Billy's houses will be very small, with tiny windows, no flowers, no pets, no toys, no sun. And his females will be even more crudely sketched than his males, but he will compensate with exaggerated adornments, jewelry, big breasts, and then his trees. Oh yes, Clarice, his trees will be frightful. How Billy hates.
Not a word to me in all these years, Hannibal. And then Crawford sends his bit of fluff over here, and you just turn into jelly. It's too pathetic. You turn around now. You still think you're going to walk on some beach and see the birdies? No, I don't think so. I called Senator Ruth Martin. Has she ever heard of any deal with you? They scammed you, Hannibal. Stand outside.
Polly.
And shut the door. Starling wants you to rot here in this little box until your teeth fall out, and nobody's afraid of you anymore. You've seen the old ones. Hannibal, they weep when their stewed peaches get cold. That'll be you, too. Unless you trade with me.
I'm not having a witch hunt here, Mr. Crawford.
It would be someone you refused because he tried to conceal a record of criminal violence. Now, please, Doctor, time's running out. Just show us the ones you've turned away.
Examination and interview materials are confidential. We've never violated an applicant's trust, and we never will.
Violate? Look, take a look at this. Now, sometime tomorrow or tomorrow morning, he's going to do this to Catherine Martin.
In here. That was a childish bullying stunt, Mr. Crawford. I was a battlefield surgeon. Good day.
Dr. Danielson, look, search your own records. You can do it a lot faster than us anyway.
Our patients are decent, non-violent people with real sexual problems.
Dr. Danielson, if we find Buffalo Bill through your information, I'll suppress that. Nobody has to know you cooperated.
Truth will out, Mr. Crawford. And then what? Will you give Johns Hopkins a new identity? And put a big pair of dark glasses on this building? And a funny nose?
Well, that's very clever, Doctor. Very humorous. You like the truth? Try this. He kidnaps young women and rips their skin off. We don't want him to do that anymore. If you don't help me just as fast as you can, the Justice Department is going to ask publicly for a court order. We'll ask twice a day, just in time for the TV news. When Catherine Martin turns up dead and floating, and the next one and the next one, why, we'll just issue another press release about good old Dr. Danielson down at Johns Hopkins, complete with all his humorous fucking remarks.
It may be that I could confer with my colleagues on this and get back to you.
Would you, Doctor? That would be so kind. Jack, the director. Crawford, sir.
Transferred. Already airborne from Memphis. Senator Martin's meeting him at the airport. Jack, did you have a trainee make some sort of phony offer to Lecter in the senator's name?
Yeah, I rolled the dice. I had to.
Well, she's mad as hell, Jack. Paul Krendler's over here from Justice. She's asking him to take over in Memphis.
Justice can't play him. He's not some mob stooge, for Christ's sake.
Crawford, it's Krendler. Why on earth didn't you just tell the senator about Lecter's offer?
Because, Mr. Krendler, I was afraid the senator would do exactly what she's doing.
Meanwhile, Memphis is mine.
May God have mercy on your soul, pal.
Chilton's killed her, hasn't he? That slimy little bastard. We were so close with Lecter. What now, sir?
You're going back to school, Starling.
Sir?
Thanks for the help. Study hard. There's a place for you in my unit when you graduate.
Excuse me, sir, but if you didn't want me chasing Buffalo Bill, you should never have taken me down to see that girl in West Virginia, sir.
Starling, you're an inch away from being booted out of the academy. Get it?
What about Memphis?
If I show up in Memphis, the senator will have me checking parking meters in Anchorage for the rest of my career.
Not you, sir. Me. Lecter will talk to me.
Even if he would still talk to you, which is highly debatable, they'd never let you in to see him.
I'd like to try. Respectfully, sir, I am the last bullet you've got.
Bring him something. I brought the Hawk Mountain Killer a pint of my wife's banana chocolate pudding once. He talked to me all night. There's a plane waiting for you now at the airstrip.
Okay, great. Can those cops down there handle Dr. Lecter, sir?
They'll use their best men, but they better be paying attention. He will.
he lives in this Belvedere, Ohio, too. And maybe he saw Frederica every day, and he just killed her spontaneously. He just meant to give her a soda pop and talk about the...
Starling.
But then he had to cover it up. He had to make her seem like all the rest. That's exactly what Lecter was hinting about.
The market in Lecter Hensey is way down today. Okay? I've got 2 good men dead in Memphis and 3 civilians.
Who the hell's fault's that?
I've got a U.S. senator half out of her head because her daughter's going to be murdered today. And all because of your fucking mind games with Lecter.
With all due disrespect, he'd still be in custody in Baltimore if you hadn't interfered.
You sent in a green recruit with a phony goddamn
He's trying to cover your ass for letting him escape. That's enough. All of you. Starling, I'm afraid I have no choice. You're suspended from the academy. I can promise you'll get a fair hearing. Jack, you're exhausted. I want you to take administrative leave. Then transfer command of the task force effective at 1800 hours. I'm sorry, Jack.
We've got to go to Belvedere, sir.
Ohio's cold ground, picked over 10 months ago. Our people worked it, so the locals.
Yeah, but not from this angle, not thinking that he knew her. You've got to go, sir.
You heard them, Starling. I have the authority.
Well, then send me then. All of his victims are women. He's obsessed with women. He lives to hunt women, but not a single woman is hunting him except for me.
You're suspended, Clarice.
He's going to kill her, skin her this morning or at noon, but today, Belvedere's our last chance. I'm flying there right now. Taxi!
Starling!
Sir?
There's $300 here. A hotline code number. They'll patch you through to me wherever I am.
Great. Great. Thank you, sir.
Jack, Chronicle called. The people from Johns Hopkins are anxious to talk to you. I've got them on the mobile phone.
Great.
Have a nice flight. And watch out for the hawks, sweetheart.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I was rude, but you woke me up. See, I work nights. Yeah, I shiver every time I think about those poor girls.
This one is for you, Adrian. Now you, Polly. Let's go for it. Rocky 5. Let's do it now. Guy goes on the fucking box.
And now, thrilling curiosities and really horrific, disturbing videos. I start.
May I speak with you?
You're one of Jack Crawford's, aren't you?
I am, yes.
Anthony Hopkins' Hannibal Lecter is one of the most iconic villains in cinema history. Hopkins' intense performance created the illusion that Lecter was everywhere. His piercing stare and measured delivery made every second unforgettable. The Academy recognized this feat by awarding him the Oscar for Best Actor.
And the Oscar goes to Anthony Hopkins.
It remains one of the shortest performances ever to win. Hopkins proved that a great villain doesn't need endless screen time. Every line he delivered dripped with menace. The economy of his role made him scarier. The less you saw, the more you imagined. Silence of the Lambs is a masterclass in restraint. The filmmakers knew when to hold back. That's why Lecter remains terrifying decades later.
Jodie Foster played Clarice.
Starling with quiet intensity. But behind the scenes, the role left her shaken. She studied real FBI case files to prepare. What she read disturbed her deeply. She later said she had nightmares while filming. The atmosphere on set was heavy, almost suffocating. The subject matter blurred the line between fiction and reality. Foster often isolated herself to stay in character. Her method mirrored Clarice's lonely journey. It gave her performance emotional weight, but it came at a personal cost. She admitted the role was one of her hardest. It demanded vulnerability and resilience. The fear you see in her eyes was real. That authenticity is why the performance worked. She carried the audience's terror on her shoulders, and she never truly left the darkness behind. Fact 3.
Anthony Hopkins
Didn't create Hannibal Lecter entirely from scratch. He studied real-life serial killers for inspiration. He also borrowed traits from famous figures of power. Hopkins said Lecter's calm, articulate voice was inspired by HAL 9000 from 2001 A Space Odyssey. The character's penetrating stare came from watching unblinking predators. He observed how charismatic killers manipulated victims. Hopkins combined charm with menace seamlessly. That duality unsettled audiences. He wasn't a monster in appearance. He was refined. That made him scarier. The sophistication contrasted with his crimes. Hopkins layered the performance with subtle choices. Even his stillness was calculated. He rarely blinked, adding unnatural intensity. Every aspect was designed to disturb. The result was a villain both magnetic and terrifying. A character who felt horrifyingly real. Fact 5.
Put the fucking lotion in the basket!
Ted Levine played Buffalo Bill with disturbing realism. The character was loosely inspired by real serial killers like Ed Gein. Levine committed fully, embracing the role's darkness. But it almost ruined his career. Casting directors later struggled to separate him from the role. Audiences were horrified by his performance. The infamous goodbye horse to prepare. He studied criminal psychology and case histories. His unsettling portrayal blurred the line between sanity and madness. Some viewers mistook his performance for reality. He was typecast for years afterward, but his work remains one of cinema's boldest villain roles. Levine said it was emotionally draining, but necessary. The risk paid off with unforgettable impact. Buffalo Bill still chills audiences decades later. A test.
Mr. Acherontius Styx.
The death's head moth became the film's signature image, but its use wasn't random. The filmmakers researched symbolism carefully. The moth represented transformation, fitting for Buffalo Bill's obsession. They used real moths on set, bred specifically for the movie. Each specimen was handled with care by entomologists. Actors had to hold them carefully in scenes. Foster admitted she found it unsettling. The insects added an eerie authenticity. Even the film's posters used the moth as a central motif. It became one of cinema's most recognizable images. The haunting skull pattern mirrored the film's themes. Transformation.
Here goes to Silence of the Lambs.
The Silence of the Lambs didn't just scare audiences. It conquered the Academy. It won the Big Five Oscars: Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress, and Best Screenplay. Plunges Clarice into Buffalo Bill's basement. Filming it was as terrifying as it looked. The set was built to disorient. Tight corridors twisted like a maze. The crew used near total darkness to shoot. Actors stumbled and collided during takes. The night vision sequence was filmed with real infrared cameras. Foster had to react blind, unaware of Levine's movements. The tension was authentic, not staged. Her fear was genuine. The scene's realism terrified audiences. It remains one of horror's most nerve-wracking moments. The basement...
I'm Lieutenant Boyle. This is Sergeant Patrick.
The iconic muzzle mask was specially built for Hopkins. It had to restrain, but also allow speech. Designers tested multiple versions. The final look was unsettlingly simple. It resembled both a muzzle and medieval torture gear. Hopkins hated wearing it, calling it claustrophobic. But it amplified Lecter's menace. The mask became instantly recognizable. Posters used it to terrify audiences before release. It was both practical and symbolic. Lecter's brilliance caged behind horror. No other prop defined the film as much. It became a pop culture icon. Even without context, people know it means danger. The mask trapped more than Hannibal's face. It trapped fear in the viewer's mind.
Think about that the release at the cinema of The Silence of the Lambs happened on February the 14th, 1991, the day of Saint Valentine, to shock the public. I'm honest. If in 1991 I was a bit older, sure, it would have been my choice.
Of the Lambs debuted on February 14th, 1991. While couples expected romance, theaters offered horror. The irony shocked critics and audiences, but it worked brilliantly. The contrast created buzz. Love met terror in one weekend. The choice was deliberate. Studios knew it would stand out. And it did. Breaking box office records, the release date became part of the legend. A horror classic born on Valentine's Day. It made the experience even creepier. Romance turned into nightmares. Few films could pull off that gamble. But this one thrived on contradiction. It proved that horror could dominate any season. Fact 30.
Jodie Foster to play Clarice convincingly.
Foster needed firearms training. Real FBI instructors taught her handling techniques. She practiced in Quantico facilities. The training was intense. She learned posture, aiming, and discipline. Foster mastered the basics quickly. Agents were impressed by her accuracy. The training added realism to her performance. It gave Clarice credibility as a trainee. Foster said the experience was intimidating, but it helped her embody strength. Her performance reflected authentic confidence. Every weapon scene felt genuine. The FBI's support gave the film unique authenticity. It was more than acting. It was
Buffalo Bill.
Real American Nightmares. Screenwriter Ted Talley and author Thomas Harris didn't invent his horror from thin air. They stitched it together from 3 actual monsters. The idea of skinning victims to become someone else? That came straight from Ed Gein, the killer who wore human flesh. Bill's charm and luring tactics, like pretending to need help with a couch, were lifted from Ted Bundy, who used similar tricks on his victims. And the basement dungeon? That terrifying prison where victims screamed beneath a normal suburban home? That was based on Gary Heidnik, a man who actually kept women trapped in a pit in his basement in Philadelphia. Buffalo Bill was a Frankenstein's monster, sewn from truth, and that's why he was so terrifying, because he already existed, just in pieces.
Dr. Lecter.
Even if Jodie Foster played in a more than perfect way Clarice, think about that she wasn't the first choice. I'm shocked.
First choice for Clarice Starling. That honor went to Michelle Pfeiffer. The studio chased her hard. Jonathan Demme wanted her. But when Pfeiffer read the script, she backed away. Too dark, too disturbing, too much. One by one, other actresses said no. Meg Ryan, Laura Dern, even Gina Davis was considered. All turned it down. But Foster, she wouldn't let go. She had read the novel. She knew who Clarice was. Not just an FBI trainee. A woman pushing uphill in a world of power, silence, and fear. So she campaigned. She lobbied Demme. She fought for the part, even when it looked hopeless. Eventually, Demme gave in. And the moment she stepped into the role, it was over. She was Clarice. The fear in her eyes.
Unforgettable actor. And think about that, Gene Hackman
owned the rights. He didn't just want to star, he wanted to direct. His plan? To play FBI agent Jack Crawford and bring the novel to screen himself. But something shifted. At the 1989 Oscars, Hackman watched clips of his own performance in Mississippi Burning, a violent, brutal film. He winced. That darkness? He'd lived in it too long, and Silence of the Lambs was darker still. So he walked away, sold the rights. Orion handed the directing job to Jonathan Demme, and history changed course. One man's exit became another's masterpiece.
Series, The Silence of the Lambs. The movie began life as a book in 1988 written by Thomas Harris. The movie boasted some incredible camera work by Tak Fujimoto, superb direction from Jonathan Demme, and great central performances by Jodie Foster, Anthony Hopkins, and Ted Levine. Thomas is basically only known for the Hannibal Lecter novels. He has written 6 novels in his life, and 4 of them are about Lecter. It is the second of 4 Harris books featuring Hannibal Lecter as a main character. While The Silence of the Lambs is the first movie based on a Harris book, it was not the first book he wrote featuring Lecter. The first book in the series is Red Dragon, which came out in 1981. However, the first book was turned into the 3rd Lecter film. The plot of Red Dragon pairs Hannibal with William Graham, the man who captured him. The 3rd book is Hannibal, which follows Clarice and Hannibal 7 years after the events of Lambs, and the 4th is Hannibal Rising, which follows Hannibal's childhood. All 4 books have since been adapted to film, 3 of which star Anthony Hopkins as the main character.
But you're not more than one generation from poor white trash.
In one of the scenes, when the officers pulled Clarice away from Hannibal in Memphis, you could see a bearded man in the background with a suit and tie. This was filmmaker George Romero, most famous for his classic zombie films, Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead. Apparently, he also wanted to feature in a movie about cannibalism. Although a background character, he made a short appearance in the film that didn't go unnoticed by many. A masterpiece in itself, it's no surprise that the movie attracted several famous movie stars. Together, with each playing their role, no matter how small or insignificant it was, they were able to pull off one of the greatest psychological thrillers ever made.
And here, a shock to me! Even Anthony Hopkins wasn't the first choice to play Hannibal Lecter.
Choice for the role of Hannibal Lecter.
You know how quickly the boys found you. All those tedious, sticky fumblings in the backseats of cars while you could have...
Jonathan Demme wanted Anthony Hopkins for the role of Hannibal the Cannibal Lecter from the beginning, but felt that Anthony did not have the box office allure that he later gained. Apart from that, someone had already starred as Hannibal Lecter in another movie. In 1986, before Harris had even written Silence of the Lambs, the film Manhunter was released. It featured Brian Cox in the role of Hannibal Lecter, but the movie was a flop, and Brian moved on in search of greener pastures. Jonathan wanted to pick someone already famous, so he asked Sean Connery to take the role. Sean took a look at the script and called it revolting and rejected it. Hence, Anthony Hopkins ended up as Lecter. If he had rejected the role, then John Lithgow would have played a serial killer in his place. However, Anthony got the role, and he couldn't have been more perfect for the part.
Even if I have already warned you, I will show you real horrific videos. They are really horrific and disturbing. I go.
Life killers. The inspiration for the character Buffalo Bill was a combination of 3 different serial killers. Ed Gein, who used to skin his victims and make lampshades out of them. Gary Heidnik, who would entrap his female victims in a specially made torture basement. And Ted Bundy, who wore a fake cast on his arm to lure in his victims. Buffalo Bill planned to use the skin of the women he caught to make a woman's suit for himself. Real-life serial killer Ed Gein also fashioned women's corpses into clothing, furniture, and various keepsakes. One of the items found in his house following his arrest was a corset made out of female human skin. Buffalo Bill used a ploy to lure Catherine into his truck. He wrapped his arm in a cast so she wouldn't feel threatened. This was also the modus operandi of real-life serial assassin Ted Bundy, who would use fake injuries to lure his victims and provoke their sympathy. Bundy murdered over 30 women and girls and was executed in 1989, 2 years before The Silence of the Lambs was released. Harris later disclosed that his characters were based on people in real life and had gotten the idea for the book when he had been asked to write for a magazine about the inmates on death row when he was 23. He spoke to one of the prisoners there who had been a surgeon and dissected his patients so he could fit them into small boxes. After having conversations with him, Harris began to do more research into other serial assassins and thus the legend of Hannibal Lecter was born.
Anthony Hopkins!
Hopkins revealed the never-before-told secret behind the inspiration for Hannibal Lecter. The source of such a gripping performance wasn't some horrifying killer from the real world, or even a particularly traumatic experience once had by the actor. Instead, Hannibal Lecter's behavior was spawned by that of one of Hopkins's teachers.
Jack Crawford must be very busy indeed if he is recruiting help from the student body.
At the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, Hopkins studied under drama teacher Christopher Fetz, a man who was incredibly intelligent, something that he used to tax his students with. This revelation is bone-chilling. Hopkins didn't channel a serial killer or psychopath. He channeled the intellectual intimidation of a teacher who used his superior intelligence as a weapon against vulnerable students. That casual academic cruelty, the way brilliant minds can dissect and manipulate others, became the foundation for cinema's most sophisticated monster. Every time Lecter toys with his victims intellectually, you're witnessing the dark side of academic authority transformed into cannibalistic terror. Hopkins memorized his lines, consciousness like a mantra. This method created something terrifying on camera. Hopkins didn't act Lecter's lines. He inhabited them. That unnatural stillness, the way he delivered those chilling monologues without hesitation or human uncertainty, came from this robotic repetition process.
I could, because I know that I would, in that situation, run as fast as I could, being a coward.
Hopkins has since said he got the idea from his fear of dentists. In preparation for his role, Sir Anthony Hopkins studied files of serial killers. Also, he visited prisons and studied convicted murderers, and was present during some court hearings concerning gruesome murderers and serial killings. The combination of obsessive memorization and real criminal research created a performance that felt authentically inhuman.
Jodie Foster revealed that she and Anthony Hopkins never spoke during the shooting of the movie.
Jodie Foster explained she and Hopkins never spoke during filming. He was scary, she said. We got to the end of the movie and had never really had a conversation. This wasn't a directorial choice or professional distance. Foster was genuinely afraid of her co-star's transformation into Lecter. I avoided him as much as I could. On the last day of filming, they finally spoke. He came up to me, and I said, I don't know, I sort of had a tear in my eye. I was like, I was really scared of you. And he said, I was scared of you.
He kind of took me under his wing a little bit, and by the end of it, I never wanted to talk to him again. I was
the glass partition separating them in their scene.
The movie's basement scenes
were filmed in a disused airplane turbine factory in Pittsburgh. The space allowed the crew to construct a multi-level set that meant Brooke Smith could enter her pit-based prison either through a trap door at the bottom or from the sides. Smith found the experience of being trapped down the pit tough. I think I really messed with my own head to do those scenes, she told Rolling Stone. Psychological damage wasn't acting, it was real trauma. Spending days trapped in that claustrophobic pit, surrounded by the oppressive industrial decay of the abandoned factory, fundamentally altered her mental state. Hopkins has since said he got the idea from his fear of dentists. That famous hissing sound Lecter makes after describing eating the census taker's liver wasn't in Ted Talley's script. It emerged from Hopkins's personal phobia of dental procedures, channeled into his character's predatory nature. The sound became one of cinema's most imitated moments because it revealed something authentically unsettling about Hopkins' psychology. His real fear transformed into fictional menace, creating a character tic that felt genuinely disturbing.
He's on his trail.
He's got real physical strength.
Rather than performed. Every time audiences heard that hiss, they were experiencing a fragment of Hopkins' actual anxiety transformed into cannibalistic pleasure. This spontaneous addition proved that the best horror elements often come from actors' genuine psychological material rather than written dialogue. Hopkins' dental phobia became Lecter's signature sound, demonstrating how personal fears can evolve into universal terror. The movie's Valentine pre-production, Jonathan Demme seriously considered casting actual convicted criminals in supporting roles to achieve maximum authenticity. The director believed that genuine psychopaths would bring unscripted realism to scenes involving criminal behavior and police interrogation. Studio executives killed the idea when they realized the insurance and legal liability nightmare of bringing dangerous individuals onto a film. But for several weeks, casting directors were actually visiting maximum security prisons, conducting auditions with inmates serving life sentences for violent crimes. The closest they came was nearly casting a convicted rapist as one of the asylum inmates in Lecter's initial scenes. The individual had been deemed safe by prison psychologists and had expressed interest in acting. Only last-minute concerns about victim family reactions prevented this casting from moving forward. Imagine if they had proceeded, audiences would have been watching genuine predators performing alongside professional actors, never knowing which characters were portrayed by real monsters. The film's psychological authenticity would have reached terrifying new levels, but at what cost to everyone involved? This near miss reveals how close the Silence of the Lambs came to crossing lines that should never be crossed.
Came into the fold. Hopkins said of receiving the script for the first time, "I thought it was a children's story, a bedtime story, and I knew when I read the script it was probably going to change a lot of things in my life. This is that sort of once-in-a-lifetime script that comes along." Well said, Anthony. Now, do the mouth noise. Do the mouth noise.
Anthony Hopkins embodied Hannibal Lecter.
Looks, voice, and movements in a way that burns itself into your brain and leaves you in fear, but absolutely captivated with his every movement. Hopkins absolutely transcends into an utter madman while simultaneously being the calmest man in the room. Of his portrayal, Hopkins said, "They talk about him for 10 minutes before he's seen as if he's some babbling psychopath, and I wanted to play him the opposite. You always play the opposite of what the audience expects." Hopkins maintained eye contact with whomever he was speaking with, while moving his head as little as possible and not blinking. The result is absolutely terrifying. I would argue that it has to be in any conversation for the single greatest horror performance of all time. As far as his look and presence, a lot of work and brilliant decision making went into that as well. Painstaking efforts were made to decide on his overalls and overall look, which went from orange and yellow jumpsuits, ultimately deciding on the dark blue before Hopkins recommended he wear all white during the escape scene because it reminded him of his fear of dentists. The infamous half mask we see during his transport to keep him from getting bitey was created by a man named Ed Cubberly, who created masks for NHL goalkeepers. The FX crew ordered the mask with the intention of painting it to their liking once it had arrived, but the paint job worked so well for that whole "I eat people" aesthetic that they decided to leave it just as it came, and history was made.
Released
to the masses on Valentine's Day weekend of 1991, and raking in $17 million of its $20 million budget back on the opening weekend alone. Then, due to word of mouth and excellent critics' reviews, the film would stay at #1 in the box office for a whopping 5 weeks. Silence of the Lambs would end up making $273 million worldwide. It became an international sensation. On the initial $20 million budget, producer Ron Bozeman said it was a pretty modest production.
And now, do you want to know the plot and how the Silence of the Lambs film really ended up? Let's discover it, because I'm going to make you watch chilling twists of the movie with chilling curiosities.
Where Clarice Starling is making her way through a training montage, complete with a Rocky sweatshirt and Rocky sweat stains. Before she can reach the Philadelphia Museum, she's summoned by Jack Crawford, the head of the Behavioral Science Unit. Starling is something of a star pupil and a former student of Crawford's.
You grilled me pretty hard, as I recall, on the Bureau's Civil Rights record in the Hoover years. I gave you an A.
A-, sir. Also extremely likable. One killer who refuses to talk to them.
The psychiatrist, Hannibal Lecter.
Hannibal the cannibal. Like multiple MIGs, who's got a keen scent for sniffing out the worst things to say. At the end of the row is Hannibal Lecter, who's inhumanly sinister from the very first sight of him. Good morning. Much better manners than Miggs, though. He's the main event you'd expect him to be, with a gaze that pierces through the camera as much as it does his plexiglass cell. Hannibal was originally going to be kept behind bars, but director Jonathan Demme wasn't happy with how they obfuscated the actors. He worried it would ruin the intimacy of their scenes together. Production designer Chris Zia came up with the solution of a plexiglass cell. She also designed the dungeon based hits her with some pocket sand. Oh wait, oh god, that's not sand! Man, there's something about Miggsy. The indiscretion offends Hannibal, so he gives Clarice a tip, saying to look inside herself and seek out a patient of his named Miss Moffat. She heads to the library for the requisite microfilm research scene. Gotta love him, until she's interrupted by her friend Ardelia, played by Casey Lemons, who was last seen on the kill count to the OG Candyman. She tells Clarice she's got a call from Crawford, who informs her that Multiple Miggs is dead. He was convinced by Hannibal with words alone to swallow his own tongue. Damn, what can't you do with that mouth, Hannah boy? Clarice decodes Hannibal's riddle of looking inside herself to mean a place called Your Self Storage. There's a unit there registered to one Hester Moffat that's been sitting unused for years. The door to the place is jammed, and since the dude who owns it isn't any help, Clarice jacks herself to victory. Wow, Miggs really rubbed off on her. Finds a car, and it ain't got Leo and Kate having steamy sex inside. Instead, it's got a headless body, as well as a bodiless head, later revealed to belong to Benjamin Raspail, a former patient of Hannibal's. Every other appointment with Hannibal, who says that Raspail was an early victim of Buffalo Bill's. Lecter only found his patient after he was dead.
Best thing for him, really. His therapy was going nowhere.
Hannibal implies he knows who Buffalo Bill is, and offers up the name for a price, a room with a view. Eddie with some Fallon caliber lip syncing. She's so into the song she doesn't realize she's being watched by a Splinter Cell looking Buffalo Bill. He lures her over with an arm cast and some dramatic grunting. When she offers to help him, he maneuvers her into the back of his van. Out to West Virginia, where another Buffalo Bill victim has been found. Her death matches all the others. Bill kept her alive for 3 days.
Then he shoots them, skins them, and dumps them.
Scalp removed, along with 2 disconcerting diamond-shaped skin segments from her back. Effects are things in there. It's an insect cocoon. Clarice quickly preserves the specimen and takes it to the town's Dinosaur district. At a museum there, she meets 2 entomologists named Pilcher and Rodin, the latter of whom is played by Dan Butler, who assisted Will Graham in Manhunter. Starling's more comfortable with Bob Bug Guy Briscoe and his buddy Pilcher. She's even a bit receptive to Pilcher's flirting and snow-piercing blue eyes.
You ever go out for cheeseburgers and beer?
Are you hitting on me, Doctor?
Yes. And in the book, these 2 actually end up together. Unfortunately for movie Pilcher, he stopped short of asking her out when Rodin identifies the insect as a death's head moth, a species that only lives in Asia. These exotic moths have to be specially cared for, which is our cue to visit the home of Buffalo Bill, whose place is part moth nursery, part house of wax. His many moths were provided by insect wrangler Ray Mendez, who also provided the nasty roaches in the final segment of Creepshow. Mendez created a fake cocoon for the autopsy scene, made out of Tootsie Rolls and gummy bears in case the actor swallowed it. He also designed the one they cut open, which squeezed out KY jelly. Gross. Buffalo Bill's lair includes a nightmare wishing well, and stuck at the bottom of it is the woman from Tennessee. Bill's keeping her alive and moisturized, giving her lotion to apply while he and his dog Precious supervise. He gets a little spooktacular during cleanup time, though.
Put the fucking lotion in the basket!
The woman is revealed via news report to be Catherine Martin, the only daughter of U.S. Senator Ruth Martin. With the case involving Congress critters now, Clarice is sent for another meeting with Hannibal, much to the annoyance of Chilton. He is to go with Senator Martin. He's so busy preening about the victory that he leaves his pen behind in Lecter's cell. Hannibal says he'll only reveal Buffalo Bill's identity to the senator in person, so he's flown to Tennessee and wheeled out in front of her wearing a mask.
But who were the lambs? Because, of course, the title is The Silence of the Lambs. Who are the lambs? You are going to discover it right now.
I'll be in there. Clarice arrives for one final encounter with him, but careful, girl. Don't laugh at his jokes too much.
People will say we're in love.
She says she's figured out the info he gave the senator is bogus.
Your anagrams are showing, Doctor. Louis' friend. Iron sulfide, also known as fool's gold.
She pries for the truth, but he reminds her of their quid pro quo agreement. In an uncomfortable close-up, Starling recalls how she was sent to live with her cousins on a ranch. She ran away after hearing their sheep being slaughtered overnight, a sound Lecter says probably haunts her.
Wake up in the dark and hear the screaming of the lamb.
Starling and Lecter are interrupted by Chilton and a blink and you'll miss him George Romero. They take her away before Lecter can reveal Bill's real name. As Clarice takes a speedy plane back home, Hannibal draws a speedy portrait of his favorite gal. His guards arrive to deliver dinner and handcuff him to cell bars to prevent any funny business. But it's finally time for Chilton's pen to come into play, as Hannibal uses it to pick the lock. He slaps the cuffs back onto Lieutenant Boyle, then sinks his teeth into Sergeant Pembry. Guy must have tasted pretty bland though, since Hannibal seasons him with pepper spray. Then he gives Boyle an off-screen beating before celebrating the new freedom of his wrists. Downstairs, muffled gunshots and elevator movement sends this 90s police squad up to the 5th floor. Yeah, Guy, I'm sure Hannibal's up on the ceiling behind you. What are you doing? Lecter's nowhere to be seen, but they do find Boyle's disemboweled corpse.
One is still breathing.
That looks a little worse for wear. Worse for wear.
Oh, you look real good there. Yeah, you look...
Yeah, very convincing, dude. As Pembry is rolled away by paramedics, the officers notice blood leaking from the roof of the elevator. The SWAT team is called in, and they find what appears to be Hannibal's body, but soon realize it's a dead Sergeant Pembry, who's not only missing his uniform, but also his face. That means the person wheeled out was Hannibal, who now reveals himself in the ambulance. Clarice is told of Hannibal's escape by Ardelia, who also tells her he killed the ambulance crew. That means I'll count the 2 paramedics who were with him, one who got in the driver's seat, and one who was shown in the back when Hannibal took off Pembry's face. The 2 students look over Buffalo Bill's case file again, and Clarice realizes something about his first victim.
As I told you before, the actor himself improvised this disquieting dance that now is iconic.
This dance scene and created it on set with Demi. It wasn't in the original screenplay. Crawford touches down in Chicago and...
Meanwhile, the police is looking for the serial killer in a wrong place. Instead, Clarice knocks at the right door.
To remember Frederica only in passing.
Oh, wait. Was she a great big fat person?
You gotta work on your icebreakers, Gum. He chews over his options and invites Starling inside, where she starts to grow suspicious after seeing a giant roll of shrink wrap and textile materials. And, oh yeah, the friggin' moth. Time to pull out her bazooka on this Joe. Clarice orders him to stick around, but the wriggly Gum just giggles and runs away. She follows him downstairs and discovers Gum's ghastly experiment. A partially finished... Discovers what the internet tells me is the body of Mrs. Littman, which Gum has left to lose its flavor in the bathtub. Oh man, it's gonna get all moldy! A blackout prevents Clarice from getting a better look, while Gum dons his night vision goggles. Are they heavy? Then they're expensive. Put them back. Clarice is left scrambling in the dark, and Gum gets cocky with his stalking, reaching out to almost stroke her hair. He tries to double his pleasure with the use of a gun, but that cockiness is too loud, so Clarice spins around and shoots him dead. It shatters a window and lets in sunlight, allowing us to see him bleed out proper. Backup arrives to take care of Catherine and her new dog, and since defeating Gum has put her in the big league, Clarice gets an FBI badge. At the graduation party, she catches...
Well, Clarice, have the lamb stopped screaming?
Hannibal is calling from Jamaica, but only briefly, since Dr. Chilton has just arrived.
I do wish we could chat longer, but I'm having an old friend for dinner.
The movie ends with Dr. Lecter stalking after Dr. Chilton, wearing his finest Panama hat and linen suit.